Welcome, welcome. I just want to say I so appreciate you joining us for today's conversation. This is Lauren Fogelman with Business Success Solution, and the topic is such an important one. It's about human capital. And if you don't know what that is, you will by the time this conversation is over. But we're going to be focusing on human capital and building a team that drives your accounting firm's success. And I'm going to be talking with Sharon Fuller about that. So some of the things to expect from the episode is common people management mistakes that could be stunting your accounting firm's growth, proven strategies to unlock your team's full potential, and also creating a culture that attracts and retains top talent. So I suggest you have pen and paper ready or have a sheet open on your computer, and we are going to be digging in. Sharon will generously share how-tos as well as actionable tips. And we'll let you know how to be able to connect with her as we wrap up. But a little bit about Sharon Fuller. She is a CFO and serial entrepreneur. She specializes in guiding accounting and professional service businesses to scale with exit strategies. With a $2 million sale of her own practice, she now leads the Scalable to Saleable program, and that offers practical insights and strategies. And it's something that she's learned from her own playbook, and she now has it into an actual playbook that you can put into play yourself and just follow along. So she is also a trusted thought leader. She excels in creating partnerships and stays ahead of technology trends for optimal business optimization. And if you wanted to find out more about Sharon Fuller and Glass Wallet Ventures, you can go to glasswalletventures.com. So Sharon, I am looking forward to this conversation about team building, human capital, and how we can use it to take our firm to the next level. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. And that was amazing. I don't know who wrote all that about me, but thank you to them as well.
And before we get into the whole conversation, I would just love to hear a little bit about how you got to this point of really seeing the impact that human capital can have on an accounting firm.
Absolutely. So I like to say that I pioneered, or at least helped pioneer the remote workspace. It kind of started in 2006. I started my own bookkeeping accounting firm. I did not want to, I lived in San Diego, so I didn't want to work in an office. An office sounded terrible. So I would go to their offices, pick things up, take it home. Anyhow, that evolved into my company doing well, and then I needed to create a team. Well, of course, I'm remote. I work from home. I haven't worked in an office for 10 years, and I had to just start looking. And I was looking locally at first, and I was having such a hard time where I was locally finding actually qualified people that were available. So I thought, do I really need them to be right here? And that was a hard mindset to get out of, right? I still wanted somebody that I could have right there. And then I realized that, hey, I can kind of hire wherever. And I was able to really kind of expand the options I had in building my team. And then from there, everything I've learned has been the hard way. I didn't have anybody to say, hey, Sharon, don't touch this stove, it's hot. So I kind of made all the mistakes possible, and kind of made it 10 times worse because no one was in the office with me. They're in different states. So you can't exactly say, hey, what are you doing? So I did it the first time, kind of figured it out, and did it again this second/third time because I have another firm. Started to smudge the lines again in the beginning, and I took a step back and go, hold on, what are you doing? You teach this. Why are you making this mistakes that you teach? So I took a step back and got everything back in line, and now we're back in gear again. So it's definitely been quite the journey, quite the process, that's for sure.
And what I have seen is for myself, and what you mentioned is that some of my biggest opportunities have come on the heels of a mistake and failure. So it sounds like that's been true for you too.
My life. That's how I've learned everything. I swear it's not. I'm really bad at reading books and listening to other people's advice. I'm the type to where when I go to IKEA, I buy the dresser, I go home and I look at the paperwork. I'm like, no, I could do this, and I figure it out. And I have extra parts in the beginning, and that's the dresser that goes in the spare room, and then I build the other one the right way the next time. So that's definitely a problem I have. But yes, absolutely.
And And before we get into the real conversation and whole gist of it, I would love to get on the same page as far as a definition about human capital, and hear how you would describe that.
Yeah, absolutely. Human capital is your team. It's a great way to say the people that are surrounding you to help run your company. It's definitely more of a professional term, just because teams are built of so many different things nowadays. You could have your outsourcing, you could have contractors, you could have actually W-2s. So it's really all of the people, the human people that touch your business to help it grow.
Okay, and with that being said, I believe, especially with the shortage that's been going on right now, the people in your company tend to be your biggest asset. I think that they have higher value sometimes than clients, because clients can come and go. But boy, if you get someone who's golden, you want to hang on to them for as long as you possibly can. So are there any common pitfalls that maybe owners find when it comes to managing their team?
Yes, absolutely. So in my company's team is first, always number one. It goes team, then clients. When you're in a professional service industry, especially in accounting, you need your team to be happy, because if they're not, your clients aren't happy. I like to use the examples of In-N-Out, right? Every time you go there, their employees are so happy and everybody treats you so well. And for some reason, that burger tastes better because it was served with 7 different smiles. And then you go to somewhere like down the street, Burger King, that's mismanaged and underpaid, and everything is just a little bit more sloppy and not up to par. So your team and how they feel about everything really flows into their work, especially nowadays with all the silent quitting going on, and people just really wanting to feel like they're getting value for what they're doing. So team is absolutely first and foremost. Clients are, especially in accounting, right? There's 2 things in life, and that's death and taxes. Those are guaranteed. So accounting clients and taxes are going to come at you everywhere. But if you find someone good on your team, the best thing to do is you don't have to find the person that's best at the job. You have to find the person who has enough knowledge and desire to learn and move forward. I would rather take somebody who's slightly underqualified and teach them and mentor them and grow them than I would get somebody who's completely overpaid and has been doing this forever and probably doesn't want to do it because their motivation is not the same.
Okay, so that's something I think that's really interesting. Some people love starting out with someone fresh so they can mold them into what's going to work with your firm culture. And then other people want someone who's already experienced that can just be put into the role and they can just take it and run. So you've seen both sides of it. And it sounds like for you, you like being able to kind of mold someone into what's going to be a right fit for your firm's culture.
Yes, and when I say that, you have to be careful, because you have to be able, if you have multiple people, you have to be able to have the time to mold them. Otherwise, you're setting them up for failure, your firm up for failure, right? So the hardest thing, especially if you're an entrepreneur or solopreneur and you're growing your team, usually by the time you grow your team, you have no time left. You're out of time. You're already working, 12 hours a day. And so you need somebody who's going to get in and hit the ground running. So maybe that first hire ends up being somebody who is very, very, very experienced. It kind of helps you get things set up. And that is if you haven't done it, as you go. Then from there, and as you set process and you have documentation and everything is in place, then you can bring people in. The biggest mistake I've ever made is bringing wonderful people that are moldable. They were great. I wasn't. My processes weren't in place. We were changing things because we were still working it out because we're a startup. It's really hard to bring in new moldable people that are, green to what you're doing if your structure is not, sound.
That makes so much sense. So one of the things I'm really taking away from this is it depends on where you are in your own business
100%.
journey. And you might need a different type of person who has experience in the beginning to help you create those processes. But once you have things in place and it's a little bit more smoothly running, then you can take someone who's a little bit fresher to the industry and really mold them into what's going to be a best fit for your firm's culture.
Absolutely. We have someone on our team right now. He started as an intern, moved into a bookkeeper, and now we have him as a junior client accounting manager. And he is just the whole way, he's like, teach me, I want to learn. And that's somebody who I will teach and teach and teach as long as they have that desire, because they're invaluable.
Right, right. And I know that you've seen so many different businesses. I work with so many different accounting firms. So you become aware of some of the nuances and some of the things that happen over and over again. Is there maybe a success story that comes to mind for you when we're talking about team building and how it really can help to scale a business?
Yes. So I'm working with another firm right now, and they went from the two partners and they just can't do it all. So the first thing we did is identified what was needed, identified what should stay in tech, what should be outsourced, and what should be people in the actual building. And what I try to, and by building I mean on the team, I try to really get across to people that you should bring in technology where technology is built. The technology is just going to get stronger and stronger. So to bring somebody in right now that all they do is data entry seems a little bit redundant, because there's so much technology out there, and if it's programmed correctly, it can do it for you. But if you're building your team with people that are having client relationships that are actually doing a lot of that relationship management, those things can't be replaced with technology, at least not yet, right?
Not yet.
So identifying at the beginning is the hardest part, because employees and your team, they should be really the most expensive part of your whole entire business. So when you bring somebody on, I always assume I have 60 days before of their salary, their benefits, or everything that I'm paying before I'm actually getting any sort of ROI or return on investment out of them. So if they don't make it past that 36, you have to start all over and do it again. So you really have to helping them define the roles, defining what they're going to do and the steps, so nothing's done out of line, enables them to not make those mistakes. And the mistakes that I can weigh are the ones against me. I brought in outsourcing too soon. I brought in outsourcing, didn't really have anybody to manage it, didn't know what we were doing. And then we had to pull it back and redo it. So the good thing is, like I said, is the mistakes I make and the money I throw down the drain by making these mistakes, at least now I can help people not make the mistakes. So I tell people, don't hire until you know. Don't just hire to hire. It'll take you longer.
And part of what I'm hearing in this process is you want to first define the role, as well as what is needed that needs to be outsourced, finding that right person to fill that role, and that motivation sometimes is better than having experience, depending on where you are in your firm as well.
Unless you're a doctor.
Yes, that's when you want someone who's a perfectionist, especially when it's a neurosurgeon. And then the other thing is that sometimes you can look at the tasks that need to be done and go ahead and invest in automation instead of a new team member in order to be more efficient, as well as focusing on human capital and what they need to do that would be effective. Yes.
And I also don't like to hire people that with the way we're going with a lot of technology, I like to hire people that, I don't know, I like to know what their goals are. What do you want to do in 5 years? I don't care if in 5 years you want to quit accounting and open a yoga studio. That's great. Let's have that conversation so we know what the goals are, and we start getting to 5 years. I could be like, hey, who do I know that can help you open this yoga studio? It's really about, and that's another piece, right? Is really having that one-on-one and that relationship with your team, as much as they want you to have it, to really kind of understand what their goals are. I think the hardest part I have with bringing people into my team is especially in the accounting industry, you get a lot of people coming from big corporate places, especially the newer people. They intern at, E&Y or some of the other big ones, and they come in and they have that in the box corporate mindset, and you have to kind of train them to get out of there. Like, it's okay to talk to me. It's okay to say, I am having a bad day today. I cannot work. I'm not sick. I just feel terrible as a human. And me knowing them can say, why don't you take this day off, instead of having to make something up or call in sick or fake a doctor's appointment. That just the general human relationship when it comes to that is so extremely important.
I absolutely agree with that. There's a difference when you're the CEO of a smaller firm or mid-sized firm as opposed to one of the big four. Yes. So that kind of gets me into wanting to hear some tactics. Any particular tips that you have for firm owners to really be able to optimize their team?
Yes, absolutely. So you have to have clear, defined deliverables for them. And you have to be able to measure them. So you need to have KPIs. If you do not have, you can have all the set deliverables you want, but if you're not measuring them and making sure that they have accountability, you can take an employee and turn them into a amazing employee with a ton of potential and turn them into someone lazy. I've done it several times. I can tell you this, that I have taken amazing people and just said, oh, I trust you, just get your stuff done. Well, life happens, and sometimes we tend to take advantage of that. So the only way to really work through it is say, here's what I need you to do. This is how I need you to do it. This is what you should be doing. And we're going to check in to make sure that you actually did that. It also is helpful to them because when you're, and I know I talk about a remote a lot, but I think a lot of places are really kind of going that hybrid remote. So when you, even is in office, when you have a busy owner, you get scared when you don't hear from them for a long time. Like I haven't heard my boss in 3 weeks. And in my head, it's because I'm busy. Now, if I don't have to talk to you, it's a good thing. But I have to revert back to what it was like being on the team and not being in charge and remembering how much that scared me. So by actually sitting down and having some sort of measurable goals and see, hey, did it, great, I'm great. I don't have to worry. I know that they're not worried about anything I did because I've done everything that I'm supposed to in my job. So that was the one thing that I have absolutely learned that is just pivotal in having employees at all this day and age, especially if you have a hybrid or remote firm.
And one of the thoughts that's coming up to me that we didn't really discuss, but I'm listening to you, is the accountability piece. So are you a fan of staff meetings or not?
I am I am the epitome of that meme that goes around that said this could have been an email. No, we use Slack, and we're very active on Slack, and we have a lot of what I like meetings as necessary. And I'm that one to where I ask my team, I'm like, do you guys want to do a monthly team happy hour? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay. So instead, we do one meeting a month for about an hour or so just to kind of go over the high levels. But honestly, we have everything so processed and documented, and we communicate just regularly in Slack that to stop and have to get on a Zoom to hear me say what I could have put in an email, I remembered what it was like being somebody on a team going, oh, I don't want to listen to this person talk. Just send me an email. I'll get it done, right? So we try to do less of that. But I do believe if you've got any sort of remote company, you need to all meet up once to twice a year. I try to we get all of our team to go to at least one accounting conference. So that way it's fun, it's offsite, we're having fun, but we're learning. And now I need to start adding in, we want to do one sort of offsite that's not learning. I've been taking them to the Intuit or QuickBooks Connect, and it's been in Vegas. So I feel like that has kind of been a twofer for the past couple years. So I'm like, we're gonna just do this one big one, but we're gonna start adding in another one. They said, can we do something where it's not work related? I'm like, sure, that sounds great.
Okay, so they're looking for a retreat of some kind. I know
Yes.
that one of my clients, after tax season, she actually took her entire team on a cruise.
Yeah,
So,
that's what we did. It's the best.
okay, there you
All
go.
inclusive. You don't have to pay because a lot of alcoholics drink a lot and those tabs get high. So you take them I took my
Yeah,
team for my last company on a cruise to the Bahamas. And it was a 3-day, just Friday to
yeah.
Sunday or Friday. And we had the best time, and we were all been together the whole time and got off port and came back on. And mentioned that to the team. They're like, let's do that. So we'll probably end up going on some quick 3-day cruise next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just going to say it's not as big of an investment as firm owners think it is, but the
No.
loyalty it creates is amazing. Very,
Yes.
very solid.
The open communication on like I said, I'm very big on relationships. If you're going to have somebody on your team, you're entrusting them with honestly with my name, right? Because if they do something terrible, then my company looks bad, then I look bad. So it's a two-way trust. It's not just I'm employing you and you bow down to me. No, you're actually running my company. And if you're not here tomorrow, I have to do your job, and I can't do your job and my job. So I think people need to really understand first and foremost how important people that they bring into their team are. And then just try to remember what it's like to human nature. What did it feel like when you were an employee? What could you not stand? And then do the opposite.
And one of the things I want to bring up, because it is a growing trend at this point, is offshore staff. So
Mhm.
any suggestions on how you might be able to create that similar bond when someone might be in a different part of the world than where your firm is?
Yeah, not only different part of the world, but the opposite time zone. So what we have found to be successful, you have to manage that team as if they're a part of yours. So somebody on your team, you can't just hand it to them and go, okay, do this. They're not in your company. They don't speak to your clients. They don't know the culture. They don't know the little ins and outs. So you have to have somebody who's responsible for managing them as if they were remote employees. And then from there, I've found that you have to give them, again, exact deliverables. This is what I need by here. This is what I need by here. And not only that, a time budget. A time budget is huge. I just noticed we use outsourcing, and I noticed one of the gals last month spent 8 hours PDF or converting PDF to Excel. I'm like, what? I could have done it in 10 minutes. So, it was a little miss, but we live and we learn. And then we manage that and move forward. But the first time we brought outsourcing on, we were just kind of letting them manage themselves, and it was not doing good. But this time we have a set manager, and it's beautiful. Everything's just beautiful. But we also have we bring them into our solutions, our technology. They have access to all of that. So they are operating the same way we are. And that's the other piece. Don't let them if they can't operate inside your company the way you operate, it's not going to work. They need to be able to seamlessly integrate into your company, because they're working opposite of you.
Do you do anything with them as far as team building like you would with your regional staff?
Nope, I've never even met them. I know that's so terrible.
Totally get it. I mean, they're clients you haven't met either, probably. So
yeah, well, I mean, so they're overseas, and I know the gal whose company it is, she is amazing to her team. She brings them to conferences. So I have met them, but I met them before we hired them. So if I meet them again, I'll take them out for I don't know if they drink, but a glass of wine, and get to know them. But you don't get a lot of that opportunity, right? Especially when they're really far overseas, and I live in Vegas, so it's a little bit different.
And at some point, firm owners are thinking about maybe M&A, mergers and acquisitions, selling their firm. So is there anything that a buyer would be looking for as far as human capital team, and also considering how that team might contribute to the overall value when it comes time to sell?
So that's the hardest part when it comes to selling your business, because you can't sell people. You can have somebody that's there. They could be somebody that's been with you for 10 years. They could be a pivotal part of your firm. They could own all the client relationships. And then when you say, oh, by the way, this place is buying us and I'm transitioning you, roll over there. And they could say, yeah, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go do something else, which happened to me. Well, that then kind of devalues the purchase, because a lot of times these day and age, companies purchase other companies for their team. They can't find good people on their team, so they buy one that has it. Well, that person honestly has, I'm saying this and it's going to come off bad, but they have zero value, as in the valuation of your company. And if you put the people that are there as a valuation, you're sorely, you're gonna hurt yourself, because they don't have to stay. The best thing that you can do if that's coming up is make sure that you have some sort of agreement with the incoming company that, hey, we need to offer them a sign-on letter, and hey, you're gonna a bonus. I'm gonna give you $50,000 to stay on, and you have to stay for a year, and I'm guaranteeing you a year and less of ABC, and you're guaranteeing me a year and less of ABC, and if you leave, you have to pay me back the bonus. That's really honestly the only way, unless they're getting some sort of equity, but you can't make people do anything, which is why.
So that's like an ethical bribe.
Yeah, it is. It totally is. And it works. Some people are money motivated. And that's another hardest part, is you can't motivate everybody the same way. So if I have 15 employees, or 15, I like saying employees, 15 team members, this one's motivated by success. This one's motivated by money. This one's motivated by pats on the back, whereas the success one is not motivated by pats on the back. She hates it. So you really have to learn people and manage them correctly. But that's where, when you go to sell your business or have any sort of acquisition or exit strategy in that way, outsourcing and technology come into play beautifully because they can make that transition, and those two
Yes.
things don't change. The team members are the ones they have to worry about. They're not like, oh, is the technology going to quit us? No, it's not. Is outsourcing? No, it's not. The people at the desk, yeah, they might.
Mhm. I love the ethical bribe. So I think that that's absolutely brilliant. And I can see how it would be a motivator for some personalities on your team and maybe an insult for others, actually.
Absolutely. Some of them at that point, they're like, I think I'm going to go start my own thing again, which is what happened when I sold my company. A few people said, I think I'm just going to go start my own thing now. And it was devastating because of the client relationships. And it really caught me off guard. I didn't think it would happen. But it did. And then you deal with it. You get through it. Just honestly, it would just be the same as when you lose somebody who's important in your accounting firm at any point in time. It can really hurt your firm. It just hurts your pocketbook a little bit more when it comes to selling your company.
And one of the things we touched on a little bit earlier and I want to get into right now a little bit more is about company culture and how critical it is. So what have you seen about company culture and its ability to actually attract and even keep those employees or team members that are such a right fit and add value to your company?
Yeah. So you see a lot of companies that will say, here's our culture, and this is what we are. And then you get there and they're not that at all. So you have to kind of practice what you preach. I have a problem where I am overly transparent and I don't like playing boss. I get really upset when anybody on my team makes me pull it. I'm like, do I really have to pull rank? I don't want to do it. I just want to be like one of the team, even though I'm not. And again, that can backfire on you. But at the same time, so can being a jerk, right? So it's really, our culture is team first, open communication and transparency. I like to be, like I said, I'd rather tell everybody everything. And work-life balance. I love hiring moms. I'm not a mom. I don't have children. But I love hiring women who have kids that are in school. They still want their career, but they want to be a mom, and they love the fact that they can schedule, they have flexibility to schedule time off to go see little Timmy's, school play during lunch, or to go in and out, go pick up and drop off their kids. They have that flexibility. So I think culture comes really from the top. If you hear about, toxic environments in any company, it really is, it's mid-management up to that top and how they handle things. And I just hope nobody ever says that about anything that I'm a part of. Of course, people leave, it is most of the time when you have to let people go, it's never a pretty situation, and they're not happy. Who's happy about that? But I really hope that when people work with me, they don't see that. And if they have a problem, they come straight to me because they know I'll handle it, because I don't put up with it.
And one of the things that came to mind as you were talking about the company culture is, I think that if you're the firm owner, you want to have a close relationship with your team and let them know you care, but it backfires when you think that you ought to be a friend with them.
Yes.
What's your thoughts about that?
I am that. I have that problem. So I have that problem. So I've been doing really good about being professional and there for my team, and I'm friendly. I don't like I said, I don't like to be the boss. I am, but I don't like to be it. I just have the balance where I be like, okay, I'm friendly. Okay, but we're going to have to stop and have this one-on-one now. So I like to really be able to draw that line in the sand and not really have to cross over it until they get there. But if I don't know, if I had people in office, I still feel like we'd go out to happy hour, for some team bonding. And again, it's probably just going to be the person I am. I think it really just depends on who you are and what you're comfortable with. It kind of makes you and your company a little bit vulnerable when you let your guard down. But to me, it just outweighs it in the long run, because I have my team and my clients have followed me from all these acquisitions. So I feel like I'm doing something right. So I really think it's a personal decision you have to make, for sure. I am not the ideal stereotypical CEO at all.
And that's probably a blessing for everybody, Sharon. So I just
Maybe.
want to say, if they wanted that, they would go to the one of the big four.
Yeah,
And,
that's why I
and
don't work with something like that. I couldn't handle it.
we get
I
it.
couldn't handle it.
I think that we all think the corporate ladder is the way to go. And as we're going up it, we realize, that might not be a good fit for me.
Yeah.
Um,
You just
what
want to
one,
be a number on a page, right? You want to actually be a person with
yeah,
feelings and that you know who they are. And oh, I respect this about them, not just where is employee 75234? Why
yeah,
are
that
they
you meet with once a
doing this
year
late?
for the annual review.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
so one of the things you mentioned earlier was about accountability, KPIs. I believe as firm owners, you already know that the numbers tell a story. And
Yes.
let's kind of figure out, what is it that you look to when it comes to measuring how well you're managing your people? Any particular numbers that you feel you ought to be paying attention to?
Yeah. So I run a lot. Most of the things I run by three things. It's communication, consistency, and follow through. So communication is huge. So one of the biggest things we have is team internally, they need to respond to each other within 15 minutes because we are all remote. We hold each other up. And they need to respond to clients within 2 hours. I know it's going to sound really crazy to some people, but the reason that I've been so very successful is that my clients, if they email in, I got it. I'll get this to you in 2 days. Put in my task manager, keep going. But now the client's not blowing you up wondering if you received it or, hey, I respond to you once a day during this piece. I don't like that. We're in a professional service. So I'm not a big fan of that. So that's really big. That's one of the measurables we have is the communication. And then the other one is, of course, deadlines. Are you hitting your deliverables? We have promised this date, we have contracted this date. Are you hitting those? Those are extremely important. I'm trying to think of what some of the other ones are, but those are definitely huge things that keep the everybody happy, the communication, and like I said, the consistency and the follow through. If you have those two, everything else is kind of fluff in between to kind of level it out. But hit your deliverables, communicate, and we'll have a good attitude. It's hard to measure that on a scale.
Absolutely. So I know that you teach a course, the Scalable to Saleable, and that module 3 is all about the people part of a firm. So how does this module maybe help firm owners look at leveraging their team and possibly even being able to sell down the road?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go into module 3 with no employees, no outsourcing, no nothing, you can leave and have everything you need. You're going to know what systems to use, what you need to onboard them, what you need to do, especially if they're out in different states, what roles you should outsource, what roles you should bring in, what should you contract versus a W-2. I give you KPIs. I give you a hierarchy graph. It has module 3, I think, has 6 different lessons, and every lesson has a workbook with handouts and templates and things that you can use. And every lesson, I'm real sorry, but it's me also teaching you for about 45 minutes to an hour. But to me, it's not less of the education and really more of the absorbing what you can and then doing it yourself. So if you go all the way through module 3, by the end, you should be able to say, okay, I have now roadmapped my team. I know what I need. I know when I need them because I have this little calculator that told me when to hire this person. So I know who to hire, what order to hire them in, when to hire them in, and how to hire them. And I also, fun fact, I'll be giving it's a 2-hour workshop at AI Unchained, which is the bookkeeper event that's coming up in Santa Rosa the first week of October. And then I'm teaching something along the same lines. It's more focused towards hybrid it's another 2-hour workshop at Intuit Connect. So a lot of the same pointers, just in a real crash course, because normally the module should take you 30 days to finish.
Okay, excellent. So this is going to be valuable whether somebody already has a team and wants to go ahead and expand, or they're just looking for their very first team member. They're wondering which would be the best way to go as far as that first hire.
Yes.
So Sharon, always a great conversation when we connect. I really appreciate everything that you offer. I always learn from you. Some of the things we touched on was common people management mistakes that could be stunning your accounting firm's growth. proven strategies to unlock your firm's potential, and creating a firm culture that retains and attracts top talent. So if somebody wanted to find out more about you and Glass Wallet Ventures, what's the best way for them to do that?
Definitely the website, glasswalletventures.com. The easiest thing is there's a little contact me there. Otherwise, you can hop on, you can read more about the course. It is a 6-module, scalable to sellable. Takes you through everything. You could see I've got a blog on there that's kind of fun. I am starting a monthly webinar on the 18th of this month, every third Wednesday, I think at noon Pacific. It will be just a kind of a real, I just want to get real with people. This first one is called So I'm Making Money, Now What? So really aimed towards our newer entrepreneurs. And then, yeah, you can just do a contact me on there, and otherwise you can get a hold of me 17 different ways through my website.
Excellent. Thank you for the engaging conversation. And for everybody that joined us today, this is Lauren Fogelman with Business Success Solution, showing accounting firm owners how to double their income working half the time.